The story begins in a Spanish prison where an accountant named Manuel was brought in to serve an 8-year sentence. After that, all new prisoners were strip-searched before entering their cells. At that moment, a warden named Domenico offered to buy his clothes for $250, but Manuel refused. Then Domenico said that those clothes wouldn't stay with him for long anyway, but Manuel still didn't agree. As a result, he wasn't given a mattress to sleep on because prisoners had to deposit $250 to buy a mattress. He was supplied with merely a solitary bucket of water that was supposed to sustain him for a duration of 3 days. As a result of this, Manuel encountered considerable hardships right from the beginning and was unable to bathe for numerous days. Eventually, due to the accumulated filth, his entire body became infested with insects, and he grew exceedingly weak. Nevertheless, a fellow inmate named Blackie came to provide him with food and extended some cigarettes as a gesture of camaraderie. Days passed by somehow, and Manuel couldn't ascertain if he would ever be liberated from there. During this difficult time, Manuel couldn't hold himself together and started banging on the walls loudly. When the head warden, Marino, heard about this, he ordered Manuel to be thoroughly beaten. 3 weeks later, Manuel was sent to the main prison, where only Blackie welcomed him. Here, Manuel had to stay in a cell with inmates named Blackie and Pino. Pino was known for his vast collection of books and exquisite clothes. After this, we see that Blackie's wife and children would come to visit him, and Manuel also hoped that his girlfriend would come to see him. However, instead of her, his girlfriend's sister Lucia came to visit and told him that her sister no longer wanted to meet him, so there was no need to write any letters. Well, soon after, Manuel began to experience mistreatment in the prison. One day, a gangster named Art Bala, along with his associates, took away Manuel's clothes. Now, Manuel wanted to file a complaint about this matter. He reached Domingo, but Domingo said that even filing a complaint here cost $300. Anyway, after this, Manuel met a prisoner named Andres who gave him clothes for free and took him to a prisoner named Dr. Boni, who treated Manuel. Then Boni advised him to join a party formed for rights, but Manuel refused because he was afraid of getting more punishment. The next day, some people in the prison were talking about protesting to get their sentences pardoned, but Blackie and Pino, they mocked and said it would always remain a dream. Anyway, then Dr. Boni, under the pretense of checking Manuel's teeth, asked him to write revolutionary slogans on some papers with his left hand so that no one would suspect his handwriting. Eventually, Manuel agreed and completed this task in hiding at night so that these pamphlets could be spread throughout the prison to gather people. On the other hand, it was not Black's turn. He shared his story and mentioned how much he missed his wife and children. However, he still had 20 years left to serve his sentence. Anyway, morning came quickly, and suddenly the guards took Black and 2 other prisoners away. A short while later, Moreno arrived and informed them that Blackie had passed away due to a heart attack during the interrogation process. However, it was common knowledge that they had intentionally killed Blackie because the guards had discovered evidence of digging activities in the kitchen and suspected that Blackie was attempting to escape alongside the other prisoners. Witnessing all of this, Manuel's heart was utterly shattered. In a fit of anger, he scattered the pamphlets he had created all over the prison and even outside. But before long, the guards apprehended him and beat him severely. After this incident, Lucia came to him. She came to meet and told him that the atmosphere in the country is changing. Now people all over the country have started talking about prisoners' rights. Within a few days, many such people came and sat outside the prison gates and tied a note saying, "Pardon the prisoners' sentences to a rooster's legs and let it loose in the prison." Watching the guards chase after the rooster provided great entertainment for the prisoners. Initially, Pino thought that all the prisoners were raising their voices in vain. However, now he too resolved to raise his voice for liberation. Just like Manuel, upon joining them, Pino initially expelled the prisoner named Campo and his associates from their block, as they were in fact informants for the guards. Time continued to progress in this manner, and before long, the year 1977 arrived, marking the period when elections were scheduled to be conducted in Spain. Subsequently, Pino, Boni, and Manuel proceeded to have a meeting with a fellow prisoner named Marbella, who was held in a specially designated room. They engaged in a conversation with Marbella, urging her to become part of the prisoners' liberation group. Their plan was to ignite the prison and provoke disturbances, ensuring that their demands would resonate throughout the entire nation. Nevertheless, Marbella declined their invitation to join because she had established a unique cell for herself, furnished with all her personal comforts. Then, the trio presented a ring before her, which was in fact a possession of her son, and reminded him how Domenico had put his son to death. Seeing this, the fire of revenge ignited once more, and he decided to join hands with Pino. Eventually, Pino and Manuel returned to their room, But behind them, the guards had ransacked the entire room, gathered all three of their books in one place, and set them on fire. Well, the next morning after breakfast, suddenly a prisoner started groaning loudly, and as soon as the guard came to pick him up, according to the plan, he attacked the guard, captured him. Pino, Bonnie, and Manuel, along with the other prisoners, caused chaos throughout the prison and set fires everywhere. Soon, they all reached the prison roof and started shooting rubber bullets at the guards from outside. The entire country supported the prisoners in this uprising, and finally, the prison officers were ready to listen to the prisoners' demands. Manuel and Bonnie went to negotiate with the officers on behalf of the prisoners. Soon, the prison officers agreed to their terms and held a meeting with them. The conditions were approved. With this, the prisoners decided to end their strike. However, unexpectedly, a prisoner noticed that this judge wasn't the real one, but an officer from another prison. That's when they realized Moreno had cleverly tricked them to stop the prisoners' revolution. Unexpectedly, the guards launched an attack on all the prisoners, beating them very severely. Later on, Bonnie and Manuel were summoned to an office where Moreno presented them with a document to sign. It stated that they would be transferred to another prison facility and subsequently released in 2 years. However, if they chose not to sign, their sentence would be extended by an additional 10 years due to alleged acts of violence within the prison. Despite this, Manuel firmly refused to betray the movement for the sake of his own freedom. The following morning, he observed the guards. They were being transferred to a different prison facility. This indicated that Bonnie had yielded to Moreno's conditions due to his own greed. Following this, Lucia visited Manuel once more. She mentioned that her sister had deserted Manuel at the initial indication of trouble, but she would remain by his side for life. Hearing this, Manuel felt extremely happy. However, suddenly, during the night, several guards forcefully took Manuel and the 3 others away. Later, they discovered